TV, your local news source. This is All Indiana Politics.
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. Let's begin this morning with Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb. The state's chief executive has spent much of the week in Europe talking Indiana's economy and hoping to convince corporate leaders to bring more jobs to the state. One other part of that trip, the governor's one-on-one with News 8 government and political reporter Garrett Bergquist.
And joining us now from Europe, Governor Eric Holcomb. Governor, thank you for joining us. What are you hearing from some of the CEOs of these companies you're talking to?
Well, hope, inspiration, encouragement. They know the Indiana story. Most of the companies that we've met with are already entrenched or deeply rooted in the state of Indiana or potentially have been expanding their business. I'm talking about Roche and Novartis and Dartis. Those were three companies that we met with today, and it's an exciting time and lots going on around the world, but we're strengthening our relationship by first and foremost saying thank you, and we're so grateful for your contribution to Hoosiers and all the opportunity that comes with it, but also looking for ways to expand in this time of great transition around the world.
What does the average Hoosier get out of these trips overseas?
Well, when you look at international investment, foreign direct investment in our state, the average wages are north of the average wages that we're bringing in through the IEDC. And so we're talking about north of $30 an hour. And so they complement all the domestic expansion that we're seeing in the state of Indiana, and homegrown businesses, small businesses, all the entrepreneurs. They're a complement to that, and they're of an average wage higher. And so that's why you got to understanding the world is small and all interconnected, and our employers are exporting goods around the world, and we're importing goods, and we'll grow together. Obviously, a state like Indiana that provides certainty and stability and continuity, predictability, this is a very attractive ecosystem for them to grow their operation, and we want them to grow in Indiana, not in another of the 49 states or territories.
Are there any jobs in particular you're really trying to angle for? Any particular companies you're trying to recruit that we don't currently have here in Indiana?
There are. When we go on these trips, we're, as I said, first, the Hoosier way, saying thank you. But then we're also on a fact-finding mission, trying to learn lessons during the current time, finding out what challenges there are during times of energy transition or mobility transition, the transitions that are occurring in life sciences. And so we added some meetings to this trip, multiple companies in advanced manufacturing that we're trying to lure to the state of Indiana. And more to come on that. We have to cultivate. This was an in-person visit. I am reminded on this trip in particular, and when we were in Taiwan, and when we were in Korea, how important it is for in-person gatherings and meetings. And so obviously with COVID, it kind of set that into a Zoom environment to continue production. But it is so encouraging to be in person, together in a boardroom, talking face to face, answering questions in person, free flowing, that you just don't get on a Zoom meeting from 3,000 miles away.
How has the war in Ukraine, and especially Russia's illegal annexation of parts of Ukraine, influenced these discussions?
Well, we spent the last couple of days in Switzerland. We spent the 2 days before that in Germany, and it's having a pronounced impact on their energy sources, and obviously energy cost and being dependent on one primary source of energy can put you in a very sticky and tricky situation. And so that can in turn have an effect on manufacturing and production levels, where you need to manufacture to meet the demand of the market worldwide. And so, we're here to first, again, say thank you. Second, to say, how can we help in this time of transition and challenge? But for sure in Europe, and not just in Germany, Eastern Europe, but it's having an effect throughout Europe. And obviously, dating back to our state's origin, the birth of our state back in 1816, we were being, immigration has played a big role in how we were founded and forged out of the forest from people coming from Europe to help build our nation. And so we're looking forward to continuing those relationships that oftentimes turn into friendships, and you can get through the tough times and also celebrate the good times when we get on the other end of this.
I want to bring this back to a couple of issues here at home. Does President Biden deserve some credit for some of the economic wins that Indiana's been scoring over the past year or two?
Well, we'll leave that to voters come the midterms and come 2024. The president is going to take credit for progress, and he's going to take fault or blame for setbacks, and just like a governor will. And it's my job to make sure I'm focused on growing the state of Indiana and providing more and more opportunity. You may have just seen our state and 49 others were just graded in terms of our employment growth, our wage growth, and our population growth. Those three key factors graded against every other state. Indiana was the only state in the nation in the Midwest to rank above the national average, outside of the West and the South, the only state in the Midwest. And so we've got to continue on that trajectory, on that path, and grow, because it's not just bringing jobs in to bring jobs in, it's bringing career opportunities in for Hoosiers. And the stronger those opportunities are, the stronger our communities are and our families are.
Something else on the minds of at least some voters back here at home: was the circuit judge, or rather the special judge in the first lawsuit against the abortion law, wrong to put that law on hold?
I'm not going to second guess her decision or that decision. It's as I predicted, this specific law went through the legislative process. Now it's in the judicial process. And we'll let that run its course and deal with it accordingly after the fact.
Now, returning to your trip overseas, where does the General Assembly come into play in terms of making some of this happen, especially as lawmakers get ready to come in January?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it is a partnership. And with our continued growth, and as we lean into getting more and more involved in entrepreneurship and design and research and development and innovation hubs, as we continue to see our state grow, we've got to make sure that we're cultivating those grounds, those fields, so to speak. And so absolutely our workforce development program, Switzerland has kind of cornered the market or perfected the apprenticeship program approach. And so we've taken note of that for years, but we really want to step that up. That will require legislative buy-in as well, and appropriation, to make sure we're giving more Hoosiers the ability to learn and skill up for the jobs, the economy of the future that we're chasing. Because again, these are very high wage, high demand jobs. And it's, if you simplify it, the more you learn, the more you earn. It's continuous learning, lifelong learning. We've got to have those pathways funded. We have them. I want more of them. And I believe the legislature shares that sentiment as well.